We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo podcast. I'm your host, Jason Vallotton. Hey BraveCo men, if you are looking for the ultimate adventure, we have the thing for you. It's our BraveCo experience happening October 23rd through the 27th. We're going to spend 4 days together as men, hanging out, having a blast. You're also going to learn how to shoot long range. So if you've never learned how to shoot long range before and you like shooting guns, this is the ultimate adventure. We shoot out to 1,400 yards. If you have your own gun, you can bring your own gun. If you don't actually own your own rifle system to shoot out that far, we have one for you. And if you've never shot a rifle before, but you want to try and learn, no problem. Even if you don't know how, we'll teach you all of the skills that you need to do this. We also do high ropes courses. There will be a ton of connection time, really good food, professional chefs that we hire to come out there and cook for us. The stuff is great. So if you're looking to get out, have an incredible time, go to braveco.org, check out our events page, and you can see what's coming up there. Welcome back to the BraveCo podcast. Men, this week, Cole Zick's back, y'all.
I'm giving you a forewarning. I'm in an arguing mood.
Well,
so
I'm ready to throw down
I
too.
just want you to know, I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood to disagree.
Well, for those of you who don't know, we bring Cole on every single month. He comes back because he is one of my best friends. And we lead a church together, Risen King here in Redding, California.
Jay is classic at taking credit for things he has nothing to do with. It's great.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a lie that I don't have anything to do with that and that I'm not basically the foremost individual keeping it going. But
Wow, the claims being made. He's in an argumentative mood too, guys. This should be fun.
Yeah, dude, I just finished 3 hours of counseling and meetings, and so
thank goodness. I'm glad you're getting counseling finally.
We haven't even talked about what we're going to talk about today because I wanted to I'm going to start it. And so I did this post the other day on this reel on Instagram, and it was basically, here's what happened. I'll set it up.
Okay.
Is I was doing a group. I lead these Foundations of Masculinity 8-week masterclass groups.
Yep.
And
because
so
you've mastered it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the most masculine man ever.
His God's ever made. No doubt.
Duh. So I lead these groups, and it's just like, guys pay for the hour and a half, and it's awesome. They're great.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible.
For reals. They're awesome.
Yeah.
And one of these, in one of the classes, this guy was asking me like, Jay, when you see, this is literally what he asked me, when you see a woman who's wearing almost nothing, what do you feel?
It's a good question.
It's a great question.
Honestly, it's a great question. I love the balls on that guy to ask that.
Me too. So I said, this is my answer. I feel excited. Like when I see a woman who's wearing almost nothing, it's super exciting.
Yeah.
And then I have to say to myself, I remind myself that she's not mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's not mine. That's not my woman. That's not my wife. That's not who I'm pointing my sex drive at, right? Like that's not who I'm focusing my attention on. She is, to me, like that's somebody that is gonna find another husband, find another man. And my whole point to him is that I'm not the one that created my sex drive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the one that designed it. I didn't actually even get a choice in the design of it. I'm not the one that decided that 5'9", blonde hair, blue eyes, boobs, and a butt is what turns me on. I didn't decide that.
You forgot vagina because that is a big part of the equation.
I mean, that works too.
That works too.
Yeah. In addition to those other things, that works too. And there's there's a variation of that, right? Like there's a variation of what a woman looks like that is attractive to me, that I actually find attractive. And I know that because every day and before I was ever married, there was a lot of different women that looked attractive.
Sure.
Just like when I walk into an ice cream store, right? I have to think through the flavors. And if I try the flavors, it doesn't necessarily make it any easier because I like a lot of the flavors. I just pick one of them, especially if I only have, well, I don't even eat ice cream anymore, but I used to just pick one, right? Like this is my flavor I'm getting for today because you can't possibly have all the flavors. Well, God gave us a sex drive, and we can talk about later, like how to manage it and all that stuff. But here's my whole point is, so I was teaching these men that your sex drive isn't something that you designed, it's something that God designed.
True.
And it's really valuable and important. Now, the interesting thing about your sex drive is when you get married, you don't just go, oh, this is the only woman I'm ever gonna be attracted to anymore. I don't actually even get that choice. I get a choice on who I marry. I get a choice on who I point my attention at. It's like when you bought your house in Reading, is that the only house that you ever see now and go, wow, that's a good looking house?
No.
That's ridiculous. But it's the only house that you walk into every day and it's yours, that you go like, okay, I'm going to sleep in this bedroom, and like, you're not sleeping in any other house. Like this is the house that you own. It's your ride or die. And so the beautiful thing around this is that every single day I'm making a decision, a conscious decision to manage myself. Okay. So I posted that reel, and which it did great on Instagram. Here's the challenge is the response. This is like just one of the responses that I get from people. Men should be able to look at an attractive woman without it exciting them. The only time seeing an attractive person causes excitement is when we internally, even for the briefest of moments, is when we choose to sexualize them. We should all see each other as children of God first and foremost. We should not be excited by anyone unless they are the one He chose for us. I think that kind of messaging in that mindset is part of what's keeping humanity trapped inside of this like sexual storm that guys are in. This idea that that if I'm excited, that if I feel some sort of pull, that something's wrong with me. I'm happy if you disagree with me, because again, I didn't set you up with.
I know. I actually am excited about this because I don't totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's great. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I'm walking into a store and I look up. I see this woman walking through the aisle that's not wearing a ton. And for a brief moment, I felt myself go, wow. Like I felt this pull. But it was more of a pull than just normal. It was more than just like, I went like, wow. And the temptation was to like chase, to like win, to hunt her down. Like I wanted to win. And so I just stopped myself. Like instantly I stopped myself and I said, hey, are you doing okay? Everything good? And I had this moment, right? Like I'm standing and I just walked through the double doors and I'm thinking to myself like, hey, is everything good? You okay? And I started to go through like, what is creating this crazy pull? Is it just my sex drive? Because that's real, right? Like I have a sex drive.
Yep.
It's on. The fact that I have a sex drive means that I want to have sex. Like that's your sex drive. But then I kept going through and was like, no, my wife and I had sex the night before. And so it wasn't like just sheerly my sex drive. So what I eventually realized is, oh man, it's Thursday, and Thursday is my Friday. And it was at the end of a very long work week.
You're tired, you're exhausted.
Tired. I'd done a bunch of counseling appointments. And what I wanted adventure. I wanted something to win. I wanted something to chase. And I realized like what the exciting piece there was actually me needing to go out and fish, was me needing to go out and find an adventure. No problem. Now, did I sin? Was that a sin? What I felt a sin?
I mean, I would say no.
No, because to me, lust is the willful, right? It's the willful participation in telling a story of something that's not mine.
Right.
So the temptation, like it said, the Bible says that Jesus was tempted in every way, which literally means, people don't like this, but it literally means Jesus was tempted in homosexuality.
Yeah.
He was tempted to be with another man's wife. He was tempted to talk longer with a woman than what he should have. He was tempted to escape emotionally. I mean, he was tempted to overeat, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
if Jesus wasn't tempted then in every way, then he doesn't actually know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Then he didn't actually die as me and for me. And so I really do. I think that we live in a culture, and I want to hear your thoughts, but when we talk about our sex drive, people have this idea that you should be able to dumb down your sex drive to this one person. And if you struggle with, no, if you have to fight to manage your sex drive for this person, then something's wrong with you. All right, Tag, you're it.
And we may be closer, because I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
And there's times where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I agree with it worded that way. Maybe it's a language wording thing. So let me kind of jump in here for a sec. First of all, on the comment that was made, one thing I just want to preface up front, I do not agree with. I don't agree that Caitlin was the only person for me to marry.
No.
Because the way they said that was like the one God.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
No.
I think that is actually the power and the beauty of marriage, is that I chose her and she chose me when we could have chose anybody else.
And she's going to choose you every day.
Right. And I'm going to choose her every day. Right. So, that's a side thing, but I felt like it was worth mentioning. I would use different language. I wouldn't be able to disagree with you. There's for sure times, and there's a difference between attractive and wearing nothing and intentionally drawing attention.
Yeah.
Like, those aren't the same thing even.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I agree with the statement that we shouldn't, as a man, I do believe it is my job to condition my sex drive. I would probably use the word condition over dumb down or manage. I do believe it is my job to condition my sex drive to be focused on Caitlin. Now, you're talking a vernacular of, is somebody attractive?
Well, I would say, how are you doing that?
Okay, and that's a great question. So, like, for me, here's some real practical things that I've told people before. Number one, I am wanting to make sure that those moments, because I don't care who you are. If you're a man, you have moments like that. In my opinion, like, I have them, you have them.
Okay, a good example is, I'm on my honeymoon on the beach in Hawaii, and I walk out on the beach in Hawaii, and the dress code on the beach is way different than what I see every day. No, let me finish.
Okay,
because I want to throw this up there to say, like, is it, when you're talking about conditioning your sex drive, this is what I'm talking about. So I get out onto the beach and I tell Lauren, we just got married. I tell her, like, oh, this isn't actually super fun for me. She goes, oh, what's not? I said, it's annoying. It's annoying because I'm having to, because I'm seeing stuff that I don't see every day that feels like a pull. I'm not wanting that. A girl walking by in a G-string, like, bikini bathing suit, who's
Sure.
beautiful. That's something that I have to manage. Now, I don't actually believe that I'm going to condition myself to not find that, to not have to manage
I think that you can.
Okay.
I think that I have in certain areas. And I would, to be honest, I would say that it comes and goes. Like, I think I'll go through 3-4 months where I don't notice a single woman around me. And then I'll go through a week where I'm like, oh man, why am I noticing everything right now? Right? Like, I notice everybody I see that's attractive, or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
But what I try to do the best that I can is condition my sex drive to be focused on Caitlin. Some of the things that I do to do that is, when I have a moment like you're talking about, Like, again, I think a lot of guys have that, right? When I have that moment, I do my best to redirect my mind to thinking about my wife.
100%.
Another thing, here's a real practical thing I recommend for guys is because we're so visual and we are going through life and we can visually see other women. But for the most part, when you're making love with your wife, you don't have the full visual of her entirely, right? Like you can see a part or whatever. Not to get too much there. One of the things I recommend to people is get a massive mirror and put it next to your bed. Because what happens is I'm actually filling my mind with a picture of the two of us together that actually gives me something to visualize when I'm walking throughout my day.
Yeah.
When I am in between moments, or if I'm in a moment where I look at somebody and my brain, I'm like, oh man, I'm noticing something that a week ago I wasn't noticing. I'm noticing it now. Again, why is it? Did I have a long day? Did I have a long week? What are those things? But my brain actually has something to mentally, visually go towards.
Yeah.
And it's a super practical one. But Jay, I think that I have to believe James 4:8. This is a scripture I've always held on to in this, which is, if you resist the devil, he will flee from you.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that this is the devil, right? Our sex drive and the devil isn't the same. But I do believe there's a principle here where resistance does cause a temptation to flee. And that when you look at that, and the next part of that verse is, come near to God and he will come near to you. So the way I've always understood that scripture is that I can actually condition myself to a point where, is it sin? No. But I think I can actually condition myself to a point where I'm not even tempted by it. And I know that I can, because I actually would say that a large part most of the time, I'm very easily, like Caitlin we'll be in public and Caitlin will point somebody out and I haven't even seen it.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, that person over there. And I'm like, what, where? And they were close to us and she's angry because they're walking around in this. And like, I think I have to believe if he tells us be holy as he who called you is holy, then we have to be able to condition even our God-given temptations. We have to be able to condition them towards a holy outcome and a holy manifestation. It means it can't always be temptation is just the thing I have to accept. I think that's part of when you're saying that, that's how I hear what you're saying, is that I just have to accept I'll always be tempted. That contradicts a bit of how I view God's instruction to me.
Yeah. I
think if he's telling me be holy as I am holy, that's something that's attainable. If I resist the enemy, he's going to flee from me. Come near to God and he will come near to me. I think I can condition my brain to actually decide what I'm attracted to. And the last part I would say to this is, the reason, the other, probably even a deeper layer of foundation of belief on this for me, is I am fully convinced human sexuality is a learned behavior. And what I mean by that is this. So instinct is like, for humans, it's breathing, right? It's you needed no instruction whatsoever to know how to do that. Even the young man that discovered masturbation, it wasn't innate in him. He wasn't doing it at 2. He had to learn what that is and how to do it. And they did a study. I think it was Science. This is probably 5 years ago that I read this. I can't remember the exact place I read this article. I think it was a science psychology website. Yeah. Where they actually tested to see if they could get somebody to be sexually conditioned to a neutral object. And so they took a man and a woman.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they aroused them with a neutral, a non-sexual, everyday, the article didn't say what it was, but it was like a cup of coffee, whatever it is, like something that's not sexual. And they aroused them physically while they were looking at that the entire time. Well, the next time they come back into the room a week later, they introduce them to the neutral object. They're immediately aroused without anything arousing them physically.
100%.
That tells me that my sex drive and my sexuality is conditionable. The challenge I think that we face right now is it is nearly impossible to not get some level of sexual messaging everywhere we go.
Everywhere.
So the amount of effort it takes to resist, you don't have to resist once in a day. You're not resisting twice in a day. You're not resisting 10 times in a day.
Bro, you're Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You are Arnold. You're Chuck Norris. You just in about a 30-second period had to fight off 25 guys all at one time that just circled and waited to attack, right? Yeah. And so my personal opinion on it, Jay, is that that's the challenge, is that we're having to do so much resisting so often that most of the time it breaks our will down. And by the end of the day at 5 o'clock, when we're tired at the end of the week, we're going home. And what was easy to do Monday isn't as easy to do Thursday. Yeah. Right. But I do believe, I have to believe, that we can get to a place where we're not a victim of temptation, or we're not at the mercy of it, but we could actually have a mind renewal enough that we could even conquer temptation, not just sin.
Well, for me, I don't look at temptation necessarily as a horrible thing. And part of it is when Jesus went into the wilderness, it says the enemy tempted Jesus. It wasn't a bad thing that Jesus was tempted.
Right.
He overcame his temptations.
Sure.
And in this life, like, I don't think that we're going to rid ourselves of all these temptations. For instance, there's temptations that put sin aside, food and different kinds of food, right? And spending habits. And like, when we talk about temptation, I don't look at temptation and go, I need to rid myself of all this torture that I live in. Like, because part of being a noble man, if there is no temptation, there is no nobility. Doing it when it's hard. No, I'm just simply saying,
I'm with you there.
If there is no temptation, there is no nobility.
But I will say, in the same vein, though, you know that I primarily cut sugar a couple years ago.
Yeah. It gets easier.
It gets way easier. Like, it's super easy to say no now. Like, I would say that often it's not even in the temptation bucket for me anymore.
My point isn't that you can't get to a place where you're not often tempted. My point is that temptation is not a sin.
Agreed.
And it's not even a sign. Temptation is not even a sign that you're doing something wrong. Temptation is a sign that you now have to manage something. You have to make a powerful decision. Because again, it's back to the angels are in a perfect kingdom. They have everything that they need.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to Adam and Eve as well. They have everything that they need, right?
And they still somehow want more.
They want more.
Yeah.
They make this decision. Let me finish. They make this decision. Now, without the ability to choose, if there was no temptation, if there was no desire, there would be no choice. Adam and Eve get in the garden, and God says, you can eat anything you want, but this what? But this temptation.
Yeah.
They walked past it every day. Was it a sin that they went, wow, that looks really good. Wow, I'd really like to have that. Wow, I wonder what that tastes like. That wasn't a sin.
So you're proposing that temptation is required so that we've conquered something on a daily basis.
I'm saying that temptation is a part of human life. It is a part of our everyday human life. Now, you can turn the volume up and you can lessen it, but I don't think that you're ever going to fully get rid of it 100%.
I don't agree.
Because to me, when it says resist the enemy and he will flee, it's not talking about, in my opinion, this isn't a verse that's talking about like, if you resist the enemy, then you're never going to have to resist him again. He's going to flee from you forever. This temptation's going to be gone for the rest of your life. It's like, I've never met somebody who lives like that. Holiness to me doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I don't have a temptation.
Sure. You know, and that's a great point.
Because
I would agree with that.
Jesus was holy and he was tempted in every way.
I don't disagree with that part either. And if Jesus was tempted in
every way, then how am I supposed to do something that Jesus wasn't even doing?
Think of it from this angle, though. Okay. So I don't disagree necessarily with what you're saying.
You wanted to argue. Now
you can be holy. You can be holy and be tempted. I agree with that. I don't think temptation's sin.
That has to be
However,
clear.
I don't think that it's like I have to have the same struggle every day to be a man of valor. I think that you can put enough work in an area and have conquered that area where you're no longer tempted now, so that your time, your prayer time, your mental thought time, your thought life gets to now spend time thinking about something else. So Think of it like this. One of the things I think a lot of people spend most of their prayer and devotion time doing is sin damage control.
Sure.
I think a lot of people, a lot of Christians are in sin cycles, even if it's a little one, where they have the same routine of I screwed up, and now the 30 minutes, the 40, whatever your devotion life looks like, is now going to be spent today asking God to forgive me of all the ways I made a mistake.
Sure.
Or in the case, in our dialogue here, man, Lord, I'm feeling really tempted. Help me with my temptation. Help me with my temptation. Help me with my temptation. I think that the Lord has bigger things that he wants to talk to us about than just simply sin management, temptation management,
100%.
and the damage control of our fallen state. And I think that that helps kind of fuel my belief system on, well, I do think that if we resist the devil, he will flee from us, because I do take it literally as it says. And I believe that he set it up that way because, if you're right, the sacrifice it takes to fully conquer a temptation is significant. And then to get there, I want to be clear, I don't think I've gotten there.
Well, I don't think Jesus got there. That's my point.
I think you're saying he was tempted all 33 years, all the time, every moment?
I don't know. I'm saying there's nothing that says that he wasn't.
There's nothing that says that he was.
Well, Jesus is getting ready to go to the cross. And I mean, he's fully human, right? He's getting ready to go to the cross, and he sees all the pain that's about to happen. And he says, Father, I don't want to do this. Like,
You're calling that a temptation?
I'm saying that Jesus, I don't see anything in the Bible that says, and Jesus was tempted until this point.
Well, it's pretty tied to the 40 days in the wilderness, where the devil put him up on the thing. Yep. The way you could easily read it in context, that was the temptation period. I've never read anything that made me think that it was a long extended period of time for him. Personally, like I've always read it that way and believed it that way.
It's just
now, I
unclear.
could be wrong. I'm not Dan Fairley. I'm far from a theologian, just to be clear. But, and so like part of me feels like when I look at the way the Lord operates, I think that moment that Zacchaeus had with Jesus very likely burnt out not just his sin of stealing money, but I really imagine it burnt out the temptation to do it again. That he had such an encounter with Jesus on that topic and in that area that it actually, I wouldn't be shocked if I get to heaven, I talk to Zacchaeus and he says, yeah, I never wanted it again after that.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to people in different areas. Like we had this guy.
I'm not saying that somebody could get to a point where they didn't feel tempted in an area. I'm not saying that.
Because I feel like that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Let me clarify.
Okay.
To me, it's the law of like stewardship, right? Whatever you steward grows. So
yes.
For instance, somebody looks at porn a whole bunch. Well, we know what's going to happen, right? Yeah. You've created these neural pathways that are going to, every time you see the cup, whatever, if that's what you masturbated to, then you're going to feel excited about it because that's what you've stewarded in your life.
Correct.
And it's growing. Okay. You used to steal a lot. And stealing was something that you did all the time. And so you get into a store and you're like, wow. What I am saying is that part of managing your life is doing all those things. Part of managing your life is stopping the stealing, stopping the cheating, stopping the sleeping around, stopping the looking at a woman and sexualizing her, stopping the lusting.
Right.
The willful participation of, sin is lust in my mind.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Okay, great. And what does that do? To me, that turns it down. It's like when I eat healthy for a really long time, I don't have this unsatiable crave.
Correct. Yeah.
And when I sit in front of a steak, I don't go, man, I wish I was sitting in front of a bowl of Fruit Loops right now. I'm like, oh, I'm so stoked on the steak. Does it mean that there is no temptation at all for an ice cream every once in a while? It doesn't. In my mind, that's not my experience. I don't actually know. Here's my challenge. I don't know a human being. I don't know a guy who in all the areas of their life, let me just go through it, the temptation to, if you just go through the temptations, this isn't to me just about sexual.
Sure.
It's that, so when I hear you talk about You should be able to spend time with God uninterrupted, where I'm not battling all these other things. I think that we get to a point where I am so in love with you in this moment that that's what matters.
Yeah.
I'm and I'm so focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem when I'm with my wife and we're having a great time going, like, I'm not fighting all these other thoughts.
Sure.
I'm saying when something when something comes in front of me, and I'm not even saying I'm right. I'm just saying, like, I actually think that that this experience in managing the sex drive, in learning how to, and again, to me, I've stewarded this area in my life for so long. I haven't
Yeah.
looked at porn since I was
Yeah.
16 years old. That was the last time.
Yeah.
Went through a divorce without looking at porn, without masturbating, like zero.
Yeah.
And I haven't lusted it in the sense of like, I've had thoughts that I've had to battle. What I've heard Bill Johnson say a lot on this subject is, you can't keep a bird from landing on your head, but you can keep it from building a nest.
That's great.
I can't keep a thought. It's not actually real that I can keep thoughts away.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. I get to decide whether or not that thought stays.
Okay. Let me take.
That's
Can I?
exactly what I'm saying.
I don't know that we're honestly saying a ton different.
Okay.
But can I change the direction a little bit?
Yeah.
Because one of the things, and I think what even that person posting was trying to get at, that I think is a valuable discussion on this topic, though. Taking it fully back to sexual temptation for a second.
Okay.
And when you see a woman that's attractive to you or wearing nothing or XYZ. I grew up believing, because I think I can't point to a moment or a service, but I feel like I was told this, that it's the woman's job to dress appropriately so that I don't lust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No,
Like, I think
Yeah.
that was a pretty clear narrative that I grew up believing. Again, I don't have like a moment or a service, whatever. And I, now that where I'm at and the way that I view my personal spiritual responsibility, and as a pastor and a leader, my responsibility as a pastor and a leader, and my responsibility to my wife and my responsibility to my kids, I actually, and I think this is what the person was posting was trying to get to, is I actually do believe it is fully 100% my responsibility to guard my thought life and my eye gate.
100%.
I don't think and sometimes I think perhaps, I wasn't in the masculinity, I didn't hear that part of the masculinity question you're talking. I think that you, Jay, when you talk about this, are so vulnerable, open, and raw. People, number one, aren't used to that from a spiritual leader. And the manner in which you talk about it can make it seem like I wanted to go hunt her down because it was in me. It almost immediately turns it into, oh, this guy's he's just a game chaser, right? Which I know you're not. You know you're not. Laura knows you're not. Anybody that knows you. But I think that what that guy was addressing was, hey, this is our job to guard our mind. This is our job to guard our thought life. Whatever level of management your sex drive can have. If you're like me and you think I can get 100% to the right place, maybe I'm going to be 75 before that happens, but I think I can do that.
I love it.
You're like, I don't know that you can ever happen, but you can lower it wherever you're at. I think the big thing that's important to say is I think it is 100% my job to have the right thoughts about all of the women around me.
Like the Bible says, don't covet your neighbor's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why does it say that? Because it's tempting to do that.
Yeah.
When the 10 Commandments, like,
yes,
you have these commandments because there's temptation. Like, the human experience is an experience of navigating through these things in your life that are tempting, that you have to, again, it's nobility, right? Like, from our forefathers, Adam and Eve are walking through the garden and they're just like, God dang, man, I'd really like to try that fruit.
Yeah.
I would really like me some of that. The angels are up in heaven. They're going, I would like a little bit more power, a little bit more prestige than what I'm experiencing now. My experience on earth is that the guy who came, and as the God who came to save us all from this world, also battled temptation
Yes.
the same way that I'm battling temptation. And I go like, oh no, he's winning this battle. Like the fact, if Jesus wasn't tempted, then it would not be miraculous
Yeah.
that he got all the way to the cross.
Right.
I actually think that Jesus was tempted
Agreed.
all the way to the
And
cross,
that's the miracle.
to the last second. He was tempted when they gave Jesus, when they saw that Jesus was in a ton of pain, they put gall in his mouth, which for everyone to know, gall is a painkiller. That was tempting for Jesus in my mind.
Yeah.
Jesus made a decision. I am not going to numb this pain.
Sure.
When I say I forgive you, I'm going to say I forgive you fully awake, fully alive, fully present, and I'm going to make a decision to spit out this gall, this wine, whatever. To me, I think that there's a spectrum. Temptation has a spectrum. Listen, some days you have great days. You sleep well. You're super connected with your wife. You feel life's going really good. You're feeling awesome. And it's just less tempting. It's like as if you eat a full steak. After Thanksgiving, you're full, man. Somebody goes, hey, you want pumpkin pie? You're like, I'm good, dude. I just ate so much. You come off of a 3-day conference where you're just cramming. You haven't eaten much. I'm burned out. I'm tired. When you fast, what do you feel?
Yeah, you're hungry.
Freaking tempted. You're not just tempted for good food. It's part of what creates nobility. My whole point in this, which I know that we're saying close to the same thing, and it's not when, this is why I wanted to do this, is because I think that, to me, a crucial point is you are not the temptations. You're not your temptations. You're the virtues and the values that you embrace.
Yeah.
You're not. Now, I think that you can alter your temptations. I'll give a couple examples of it.
I totally know that you can.
Yeah.
Because everybody's done it in certain ways, right?
Well, for example, like if you go back 300, 400, 500 years ago, what was like attractive? What was a sexually attractive woman?
Voluptuous.
Yeah. Heavy.
Different body type than has been American.
Yeah. Heavier.
Yeah.
Or white, like pale skin.
Yeah.
Because it resembled somebody who didn't have to work, somebody who didn't have to go outside, and somebody who had a lot of food, right?
Yeah.
But somehow we found that attractive. Well, so I'm not even saying that I'm deciding that this is attractive, because I don't think anyone would go, yep, I'm going to decide today that this BraveCo cup is attractive.
But we're conditioned to it.
Yeah,
based
over
on
time.
Culture, environment.
But to me, that's not even an evil thing. That just is a thing. It's just how life goes. My whole point is, it doesn't make you more or less spiritual because you face a temptation.
I don't think, I'm not trying to say that either.
I know you're not.
What I think that the point that he was trying to make is,
He's a she.
My eyes, my responsibility, my thought life, my responsibility. If I could sum it up, my spirit, my responsibility, where I think that that men have allowed the sexualization of culture to be the excuse for our downfall for a long time.
100%.
And I think that the reality of it is most men aren't willing to be as honest as you, Jay. I don't know very many men that on their honeymoon would tell their 24-hour-old wife, we need to leave the beach. Why? Because I'm looking around and this is hard.
I actually didn't even tell her I need to leave. I just said, hey, I'm having to manage myself a lot. And she said, oh, I'm really sorry about that. And honestly, opening up to her was so helpful.
But I don't know, like it's a small group of guys that are willing to go to that level.
But that's why I want to talk about it. Because I think the shame of somebody saying, you shouldn't feel this way. A man shouldn't feel tempted for another woman. You shouldn't feel anything, is my whole point.
I'm not saying
today.
They shouldn't. I'm not making the statement that you shouldn't feel tempted. I'm making the statement that I believe God will empower us to the point where we're not constantly having to deal with temptation. And I think that because if we could like almost wrap it up in a sense of, I think a takeaway is whatever level of management, conditioning, whatever language you want to use, I think it's our responsibility as for those that are married, it becomes my responsibility as a married man to, as far as I can on earth, focus all of my sex drive towards my wife on a daily basis, whether I'm with her or whether I'm not, whether I'm full, so to speak, or whether I'm starving, whether I'm exhausted or whether I'm full of energy. I think it becomes my responsibility to, and you can't avoid working with women. It's everywhere you go. And so especially as pastors and leaders, I think it becomes even more critical that I have done a thorough, intentional, and as complete of a job as I can on this side of heaven. To condition my drive to be towards Caitlin, to honor her, to honor my kids, to protect what God has called me to do, to honor the women around me, but most of all, to honor the Lord.
Yeah, my whole point is when we get to heaven, we're still going to face temptation.
I don't know if I can totally buy into that statement.
Well, a third of the angels fell and they were in heaven. And also, God doesn't want people who aren't, I mean, God wants you to choose him.
This is now we're moving into eschatology. Here we go.
Okay, well, here we go. I mean, we have to close it down.
Yeah. That's a podcast coming next time. Probably not, actually. We're probably not
we should do this. What I love is back to what you steward grows.
Yes. That I agree with. And that's what the point I'm making is if what I steward grows, that means I can steward the right thought life. I can starve one pattern and grow another.
Kind of, yes. And also, to me, it goes back to when I am nurturing a relationship with my wife, right? And I use the word nurture on purpose because husbands are supposed to cherish and nurture their wives. When I start to nurture, right, this relationship with my wife, and I learn how to open up, I learn how to be vulnerable, learn how to connect emotionally, I learn how to hear her thoughts and her feelings, and we're building a marriage that we love. This becomes so much more appealing.
Yeah.
This becomes what I'm invested in. This becomes, and I learn how to manage my tired. I learn how to recharge. Now I'm not a starving man every day leaving my house.
Yeah.
I'm full. What am I full of? I'm full of love. I'm full of investment. I'm full of purpose for us.
Yeah.
It makes it a fair fight.
Yeah.
It makes it so that it's the same way. Like I eat breakfast. I eat a good breakfast in the morning. I eat a good lunch. I plan ahead for my meals so that I don't have to fight off, oh God, I got to make the right choice today. It's not a temptation to eat a candy bar anymore in the same way that it was 20 years ago for me. If I don't steward myself well, if I don't be mindful of what I'm putting in, that stuff becomes a really hard fight.
Yeah.
And to me, like it's back to—
I'm with you. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
The crux is condition yourself so you're never tempted ever again in your life.
And then you'll be fine. Then you'll be fine.
I think
Guys,
it's great.
Yeah.
It's good combo.
No, it's awesome. And I because I really want to change the way that men are seeing their sex drive. I think there's so much shame.
Yes. And I agree. We don't want to demonize it. We don't want to act like it's a bad thing. It's broken and it's the reason that we're a monster.
And I think
100%.
that's the whole point is guys are getting to a place where they feel so much shame. Like was my point with this. It's like every guy that reads that, it's like, oh my gosh, I should have no temptation except for the one that God chose for me. It's like, where's that in the Bible that I shouldn't have any temptation for another woman except for that wasn't David's experience. And he's a man after God's own heart. Like David's experience was way different and we don't have to go there.
I know where you're going. I mean,
I want to remove shame from men.
Agreed.
And
I don't
empower
think
them.
But I guess the only vernacular difference when you conclude all of it from me and you is I agree that it's not a shouldn't, but I do think it's a could. I think you could get to the point where you don't have that. I don't think it's a matter of if you're a good man, if you're it's not a do or don't good man. I don't think it's, are you, like, I agree with you. It's not the shoulds. It doesn't determine who you are. It's not an identity marker if you have or have not removed temptation, but I do think you can. And that's my final statement.
All right, man. Hopefully this was fun and helpful for you. And listen, do like Cole and completely eradicate.
I did not say I've done that.
I'm kidding.
I did not say that's happened.
Love you guys. See you next week. Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.